You ever really look at a donkey? Not just notice it? Not just wave at it from a tourist trail or see it in the background of a village photo? I mean really, really look into its eyes. They're not wide and wild like a horse, not sharp and darting like a dog. No, a donkey's eyes are old, even the young ones. There's something ancient behind them, like they've seen too much, remembered everything and chose to stay quiet about it. It's the look of someone who has been carrying the weight of others for so long, they forgot what it's like to be light. There's weariness there, and wisdom. A long, silent scream wrapped in layers of patience. Patience they never asked to have, but learned because the world gave them no other choice. You see, donkeys weren't built for glory. No parades, no trophies, no admiration in children's books. While horses raced into battle and camels crossed kingdoms, donkeys carried bricks, water, firewood, children, grandmothers, everything. And they did it quietly, without thanks, without breaks. They pulled more than they should, walked farther than they could, ate less than they needed. And when they stumbled, they were blamed, not for failing, but for being stubborn. Some animals get stories, legends, statues. Donkeys get another rope. So today, just for a moment, I want to tell their story. No drama, no exaggeration, just quiet honesty. So make yourself comfortable, settle in. Maybe close your eyes, and let's talk, slowly, gently, about why it sucks to be a donkey. A donkey is not born into freedom, it is born into duty. The world doesn't welcome it with wonder or wide-open meadows. It isn't born to run wild or chase butterflies across a field. No. From the very first breath, a donkey is measured not by what it is, but by what it can do. Can it walk? Can it pull? Can it carry? Before it even understands what pain is, it's being prepared for a lifetime of enduring it. The ground beneath its hooves isn't soft. It's worn and rough, packed from years of traffic. It learns quickly that the world is heavy and that most of that weight will rest on its back. As a foal, it gets only a small window of gentleness, a few weeks to nurse, to stumble after its mother, to feel the sun on its fur and the wind in its ears. But that window closes fast. Because unlike pets, donkeys are not raised to be loved. They're raised to be used. The rope comes early. First, it's light, almost symbolic, a way to guide, to control. Then, training begins. Small loads at first, then heavier. Wooden crates, bags of rice, firewood, water jugs, children. Always something to carry, always somewhere to go, and never by choice. The training doesn't come with rewards or encouragement. There are no treats for a job well done. No belly rubs, no rest days, just more work. If the donkey resists, hesitates, people call it stubborn. But it's not stubborn, it's learning. Learning that the world will not wait for its comfort. Learning that its own tiredness doesn't matter. Learning that standing still means getting shouted at, or worse. And so it adapts. It learns to walk until the legs go numb, to carry weight that feels too much, and then carry more. To ignore hunger and thirst and pain, because complaining won't stop the rope. And rest is only for those who can afford to stop. And a donkey is never allowed to stop. Some animals grow up with affection, with names, with voices that speak softly to them. A donkey grows up with commands, with the crack of a stick, with the knowledge that its value is not in who it is, but in what it can survive. And that's how a donkey becomes what people expect it to be: quiet, obedient, unquestioning, But behind those dark, watchful eyes is a memory of how early it began, of how quickly the world decided you were not born to rest. You were born to serve. There's something strange about the way we admire strength. We love it when it's loud, a lion's roar, a horse charging into battle, a boxer raising their fist in victory. But the donkey's strength? It's different. It's quiet, constant, unseen. It's the kind of strength that doesn't make headlines, but builds civilizations, and no one ever notices. Donkeys have carried the literal weight of human progress, bricks to build cities, tools to plow fields, food to reach mountain villages, water jugs to parched lands. For centuries, when roads were too narrow for carts and paths too steep for wheels, who walked those trails? Not the horse, not the ox, the donkey. Day after day, step by step, they climbed hillsides and crossed rivers, without complaint, without recognition. A horse stumbles and people rush to help. A donkey stumbles and they tug the rope harder. See, the donkey doesn't look heroic. It doesn't sparkle in sunlight. Its walk isn't elegant. Its voice isn't beautiful. But that body, small and sturdy, is built to endure. The muscles beneath its coat don't just carry weight, they carry histories. No saddle medals, no fancy shoes, no groom brushing its mane after a long day, and yet it keeps going. Over rocky terrain, through heat, through cold, through pain. The donkey's strength isn't the kind you celebrate. It's the kind you expect. And that's the tragedy. People see it working and assume it can handle more, so they pile more weight. They stretch the limits. They treat endurance as permission. But even the strongest things crack. Even the quietest bodies feel pain. The donkey won't say it. It won't show it. But deep in its bones, in the joints that creak silently, in the hooves worn smooth from years of walking, in the breath that gets just a little shorter every day, it knows. It was strong, but never thanked. And that's what makes its strength not just quiet, but invisible. And yet, the world keeps leaning on it. Everyone thinks they know the donkey, that it's slow, that it's difficult, that it's stubborn. It's a label people love to throw around. They'll say it with a shrug, a smirk, maybe even a little laugh. You know how donkeys are. But here's the thing. Nobody ever stops to ask why. Why does the donkey stop when the path looks fine? Why does it refuse to cross that bridge or climb that slope or walk into that narrow alley? People don't ask because they already think they know. It's just being difficult, lazy, defiant. But let's look closer, because the donkey's so-called stubbornness is not rebellion. It's memory, it's intuition, it's self-preservation. Donkeys are thinkers, observers, not like horses who startle and run from fear. A donkey doesn't flee. It freezes, it calculates, it looks, it listens, it knows. That path, the one that looks perfectly fine to human eyes? Maybe last season a rock slide swept through there. Maybe the ground is too soft or the incline too sharp. Maybe the donkey once saw another animal fall. Or maybe it felt the shift in the earth, the almost imperceptible tremble that humans never notice. The donkey stops, not because it won't, but because it shouldn't. And in that moment, instead of being understood, it's punished. A sharp tug on the rope, a slap, a curse, maybe even a stone hurled at its flank. Because from the human perspective, hesitation equals defiance. But here's the truth no one wants to admit. The donkey is often the smartest one on the trail. It remembers. It calculates risks. It values safety over speed. But because it doesn't obey blindly, it gets labeled, not as wise, not as thoughtful, but as stubborn. And once that label sticks, it justifies everything. You have to hit a donkey to make it move. They don't feel pain the same way. They're too dumb to understand kindness. Lies. Cruel lies passed down through generations. The truth is, the donkey feels everything. It feels the slap, the neglect, the weight. It feels the loneliness of being called names it doesn't deserve. And it carries that too. Not just the sack on its back, or the firewood, or the child sitting side saddle, but the weight of misunderstanding. Over time, even the donkey starts to internalize it. It stops hesitating, stops resisting, stops thinking. Not because it's changed, but because it's tired. Tired of being yelled at. Tired of being punished for caution. Tired of being right and never being heard. So it becomes what they expect. Numb, obedient, silent. And that, right there, is the saddest part. We called it stubborn, and in doing so, we silenced its wisdom. We erased its instincts. We punished it for thinking until it no longer dared to. The world was not built in a day, and it was not built on wheels. It was built step by step, hoof, by animals who walked. And among them, no one walked longer than the donkey. You see, the donkey's life is not about speed. It's not about glory. It's about distance. And distance is a quiet kind of suffering. Think about it. Most animals rest when the sun is high. But the donkey, it walks. Walks through dust, through rain, through snow and cold, and heat so harsh it cracks the earth beneath its feet. The saddle might change. The rider, the burden, the path, they might vary. But the donkey's rhythm stays the same. One step, then another. One long, never-ending journey. The walk begins at sunrise, and sometimes it doesn't stop until the stars are overhead. No one counts the miles, no one offers thanks, just a slap on the flank and another load in the morning. People forget something about distance, that over time, it changes you. The donkey's body tells the story. Hooves chipped and worn thin, knees that creak like old hinges, a back bent slightly more each season, calluses where the rope rubs, scars no one notices anymore, not even the donkey. And worst of all, the look in its eyes. Not fear, not anger, just a deep, distant kind of tired. A tired that lives in the bones. A tired that sleep can't fix. Because it's not just walking, it's carrying. Carrying supplies, carrying people, carrying expectation. Carrying the weight of being just a donkey. And when it finally rests, it doesn't lie down right away. It just stands there, head low, breathing slow, legs stiff like wooden posts planted in the earth. You can almost hear its thoughts. Another day done, and tomorrow, again. There is no finish line for the donkey, no medal, no applause, just more road. So it walks, with cracked hooves, with aching joints, with quiet endurance that no one notices, until the day it simply doesn't get back up. There comes a time in every donkey's life when the body begins to betray the spirit. Not all at once, no dramatic collapse, no final moment under the sun with a noble tear in the eye. It begins slowly. A limp in one leg, a missed step on a familiar path, a soft wheeze after a steep hill that used to be nothing. The owner notices, of course they do, not with concern, but with calculation. It's getting old, not worth as much anymore. We should start looking for another. And just like that, the clock starts ticking. Not toward retirement, not toward comfort, but toward replacement. The donkey, for all it's given, has no pension, no pasture in the countryside with soft grass and shaded trees, no farewell ceremony with words of thanks or gentle hands. All it gets is less. Less food, less care, less attention. The rope is tied shorter, the water bucket comes later, the shelter leaks when it rains. Sometimes it's sold, for a few coins, to a man who needs a pack animal but can't afford a good one. And so the donkey works again, now with brittle joints, aching ribs, failing eyesight, for someone who sees it only as a bargain. It stumbles more now, it coughs in the cold, its hooves crack deeper with every dry season. But still, it walks, because that's all it's ever known, until one day, it doesn't. Maybe it slips and there's no one there to help it up. Maybe it lies down in a field and decides, just this once, not to get back up. Maybe the load is simply too heavy that day, and when it can no longer serve, it's not called loyal, not brave, not beloved, it's called a problem. Some are abandoned, left to wander until hunger or infection or accident claims them. Some are sold to slaughter, their bodies turned into leather straps or boiled for glue, and some just vanish, one morning, gone. A whisper of a life that once bore generations. There are no graveyards for donkeys, no headstones that read, "Here lies the one who carried us." No elegies, no wreaths, no quiet moments of silence. They gave everything and left with nothing. And maybe the saddest part is this: most people won't even remember the donkey's name, if it ever had one. You don't notice it at first, because dignity doesn't shout. It doesn't wear medals. It doesn't ride in parades. Dignity walks quietly. Sometimes, it walks on 4 tired legs with cracked hooves and worn-out joints. The donkey has never been seen as a noble animal. It's been mocked, called stubborn, called dumb, treated like a background character in humanity's great story. But think again. In every forgotten corner of history, the donkey was there. When kings rode horses into battle, it was donkeys that carried the supplies. When cities were built stone by stone, it was donkeys that hauled the weight. When medicine, grain, and water needed to reach the remote and the isolated, the donkey took the path no wagon could. It walked the narrow ledges, it crossed the dry valleys. It braved the heat, the cold, the hunger. Not because it was forced, but because it was trusted. People trusted the donkey to keep going. That's not stubbornness, that's reliability. That's strength wearing the mask of silence. That's dignity that doesn't need praise. Dignity that's grown deep like roots in the soil. And maybe the saddest part is, it took us this long to notice. You see, when an animal is quiet, when it doesn't fight back, when it accepts every burden without resistance, we assume it feels nothing. But look again, look closer. There's a softness behind a donkey's eyes that's been there for generations. A memory passed down of service, of patience, of waiting for humans to understand. In a world that glorifies loudness, speed, and dominance, the donkey chose another path. A path of steady footsteps, of quiet loyalty, of dignity in obscurity. And maybe, just maybe, the donkey is not behind us. Maybe it's ahead of us. A reminder of who we used to be, atom of what truly matters. Not the spotlight, not the applause, not the race, but endurance, kindness, purpose. Maybe true dignity isn't about standing above the crowd. Maybe it's about kneeling beneath the weight, again and again, without losing your soul. Maybe that's what the donkey has been trying to show us, all along. And now, maybe we're finally ready to see it. Not just as a beast of burden, not just as that poor animal, but as a quiet teacher, a forgotten partner, a soul worth honoring. Maybe this story wasn't just about the donkey. Maybe it was about us too, because some of us wake up tired, carry loads no one else sees, keep walking through noise, through silence, through days that feel the same. We do what needs to be done, without applause, without rest, without thanks. And sometimes we wonder, does anyone even notice? Am I just carrying things until I collapse? And in that moment, the donkey is no longer just an animal. It's a mirror, a quiet reflection of the quietest parts of us, the patient part, the resilient part, the part that keeps going even when it hurts. So maybe the message is this: if you can find compassion for a creature who bore the weight of the world in silence, then maybe, just maybe, you can offer that same compassion to yourself. You are not lazy. You are not weak. You are not invisible. You are carrying more than most will ever understand. And still, here you are, walking, breathing, showing up. That is dignity. That is strength. That is something to be proud of. So before this ends, take one deep breath. Let it out slow, and say it quietly, just for you. I see you. I'm proud of you. Keep going. Because the donkey did, and so do you.